Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brand Design Masters podcast. I'm super excited because today I'm here with Daniel, Clydesdale and Eilidh Dunsire, who co-founded Clyde, an agency in Scotland with additional offices in California, to build brands with the ultimate mission of making the world a more beautiful place. Their main focus is creating interactive websites and building impactful brands for clients like Wired Media Solutions, Athlab, Elido, and DF Communications. Daniel and Eilidh came on my radar when they made a foray into YouTube with their channel Design Break, which has, in my humble opinion, incredible potential. So you could definitely go check that out. And with that, I welcome Daniel and Eilidh.
Awesome. Hi. Yeah. Thank you very much for having us on the podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Phil.
Absolutely. So why don't we start off and just share a little tidbit about your personal lives. You're a pair, right? And so to help viewers and listeners get to know you a bit better.
Sure. Yeah. So we founded Clyde in 2018. Eilidh and I just really wanted to do our own thing and be able to explore our creativity a bit more than where we were at a previous agency and do our own thing. And we wanted to branch internationally, which I think was a big thing. We wanted to work with clients who had a bigger vision and just kind of grow that side of it.
Yeah, so we were kind of working together an agency. We actually met before we worked together. So yeah, we've been working together for quite a long time, and it's kind of a weird balance because we work and we live together. We're actually married, but it's actually a good balance. I think because we can be so brutally honest with each other's design, we can give each other like really good feedback. So it actually works quite well. So we've not fallen out yet. So
yeah. So were you an agency romance that had to keep it quiet for a while, and then you kind of?
Not really. We actually met at university. So.
Oh, okay.
Studying architecture back in 2008. We met on the same course, and then we actually both moved to study graphic design together as well at the same time. So we kind of went through the whole journey together from start to finish.
And right out of school, I mean, did you start your own agency to begin with, or did you work for another agency before that?
No, we did. We worked for. So Eilidh had a job at the tourism agency for Scotland, and I worked at a firm that actually had an agency as a department. So it wasn't a great setup, but it was really valuable for teaching the experience of managing projects and clients and not having the freelance. Freelance is very scary, obviously, if you're just new into it. So luckily there was a safety net of a salary there and things. So we then eventually both started working for that department, and we wanted to really take it further, which is why we started Clyde.
Oh, interesting. And so how long did you work in the agency in those various capacities before you started your own thing?
So we were working together for I think about 3 years before we started Clyde, and then separate from that at different agencies it was just about maybe a year or 2 years before we. So we had about 5 years of industry experience before we founded Clyde. So we had a little bit of background.
Okay. And that's where you were got your feet wet in terms of the business side of it and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and started realizing it's kind of a whole different ballgame, like running your own show.
Yeah, absolutely. And so right when you started off, what was that like? Who were your first clients? How did you get them?
So it was... when we started Clyde, we actually did have some clients. We were very, very lucky in that sense that when we moved out of the department, we were able to sort of amicably make a deal with the company that owned the department to take some clients with us. So we were really grateful for that.
Ooh.
But we wanted to, kind of reach out a little bit more, and it was tough. But we found through the platform we were using, which is Webflow. It's kind of a web development platform. We found an audience there, but that's also kind of what motivated us to branch out into other channels like YouTube and Instagram, and using social media to market.
So you got some clients initially. You were able to take them, which is shocking to me. That's very rare that happens. And but then you started to build your client list through word of mouth from those clients, or through content marketing and your social activity?
Yeah, so it wasn't really. I don't think it was really word of mouth. There was a little bit of word of mouth marketing, but the clients that we sort of started with were I don't want to say small time. They were a little bit smaller than what we wanted to work with. We wanted to kind of work with bigger clients, and also, so all of those clients that we started on Clyde with were based in the UK, and obviously we were wanting to branch out to California. So, kind of breaking into that market was like a new challenge that we kind of had to think about how we're going to approach it and how we're going to get clients there. So that's kind of when we really started with the content marketing, because we really wanted to find. This was like before coronavirus, so like video meetings and stuff wasn't that super common, and doing business completely remotely was a bit of a scarier thing before COVID made it a lot easier. So so that's kind of why we started the YouTube channel, and we started posting on the blog a bit more, just to get our faces out there and get known a bit more.
And so the UK, Ireland, Scotland, not a small market. So, I mean, why did you decide to like jump the pond right out of Scotland rather than kind of focusing on larger clients, many of whom are in the EU and UK? Why did you go to California?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. And we get asked that a lot. And I think we decided that we really wanted to work in a creative hub. And, when you think about like kind of global creative hubs, it's, people mention like London, Paris, Tokyo, New York. But in terms of the culture, we just really like the culture in California, and Los Angeles being also a very creative, diverse location. We just, it's just a great mix of culture. It's a very large market as well. And of course, if I didn't mention the weather, I'd definitely be missing out a big point. But yeah, it's just a really great package. We kind of like the culture there.
So do you guys split your time between there, or do you have a separate team out there, or how does that work?
So we're currently splitting our time. We do have Johnny. He's our business development and sales. He is based in Los Angeles, so he's there kind of on the ground to help kind of grow the roots there. But we've traveled back. We just came back. We actually we did spend Christmas Day on a plane because there was a whole debacle, but we were just over there just before Christmas time. So we're splitting our time from March this year. We're probably more likely to spend more time in the US on the ground there.
Well, understanding what happened in the U.S. during the holidays with plane travel, I have no idea, but I have a pretty good idea, actually, what you went through. How long did it take you to get back home?
So we were supposed to be flying out the day before Christmas Eve, and then we missed our flight because we couldn't get our test in time. Or it was a whole thing.
We got a test, and we just didn't get the provider flaked on us and didn't give us the results. So it was Christmas Eve before we flew, and instead of going to Heathrow, we had to go New York first, and then Heathrow, and then to Scotland. So we'd still actually made it for like lunchtime Christmas Day.
And we got the meal on the plane was a Christmas dinner, which was really cool. It was actually quite good as well.
So you have a business development person in California, and you obviously are most of your clients in the U.S. at this point?
I think,
they are now, yeah.
Numbers wise, we've maybe got more in the UK, but actual sort of the value of the clients more is in the US, definitely.
So you do website work, and I think you said primarily with Webflow. So when you're doing websites, interactive sites for clients, is that an ongoing sort of activity, or is that kind of a one and done, you design the site and you leave? Do you get involved in the maintenance and the ongoing population of content within their websites?
We do. Yeah, we have a great ongoing relationship. Some clients are more hands-on, so with them it tends to be more of we undertake the very technical elements of the build, and then they are happy to manage it themselves. But we do offer maintenance, and there are lots of clients we have a good relationship with for ongoing support, and some even on retainer where we do more builds. More like build stuff. So all they have to do is give us the words and the pictures, and we'll do the rest to make it look good.
So what's a typical project look like for you? Is it do they starting with a clean slate? Are they starting with a website that you have to break down and redesign completely, or is there brand identity involved? What's that look like?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix. So some people come with, they've got an old website that they need a new one, but a lot of our more recent projects have been, they've got something they've maybe put together themselves really quickly to get off the ground, and then they're ready to sort of invest in a proper website. And that's when they come to us. And a lot of the time they'll maybe have the same thing with branding, where they've maybe got a logo on Fiverr and they're ready to kind of just get the whole package. So yeah, we kind of start off with a strategy session with them where we kind of diagnose everything and ask all the questions, and then we kind of take it from there. And we try to work quite collaboratively, so we won't sort of do the strategy session, then go away and do the design in secret, and then sort of present it to them. We'll kind of try and like get them involved as much as we can in the process as we're going along, and involve the client.
So how do you? I understand why you do that sort of thing, but I also understand that there's challenges involved in that, and that there's the pros and cons to the to the arm in arm kind of design process. One is that it can become very in the beauty of the collaboration, the client gets to participate in the creative process, which it makes sign off a lot easier in the long run, right? The big reveals can go very badly, as we know.
Yeah.
And so, but on the other hand, when you work that way with clients, you are sometimes mired in their own personal aesthetics, which may not serve the strategy of the business. And the other is that it can drag out the process. So how do you manage those two aspects of that way of working?
Yeah, it's definitely a balance, sort of on both sides. So we normally try to set up like milestones so we don't sort of have the client involved sort of every single stage of the process. We'll have sort of milestones where we get feedback, and also when we have the strategy session, that's kind of when we have like a sort of deep dive into what our client thinks the problem is, and then we'll sort of diagnose what we think the next steps are and what the strategy should be, and then we sort of chat to them about that and make sure we're all on the right page, and then we can use that sort of to go back to throughout the project. So if it starts to go off track from that a little bit, and personal interest or personal taste start to get involved with the design or the aesthetics, we can go back to the strategy and say, this is what we think your audience wants for your website, and we kind of talked about this, and this is kind of what we came to. And that can kind of help steer the project back in line, because we always try to keep their audience in mind and remind the client that it's not their taste, it's their audience taste that we're kind of building to, which is kind of sometimes hard to explain, but normally it helps clients sort of understand where we're going with the design.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you guys, you do interactive websites focusing on Webflow. Do you niche down in terms of industry or category? Or are you all over the map? Does it really matter to you?
In recent times, we now, with our outreach, we look to work with the two main industries, so the tech sector, like tech startups, and the architecture and engineering space, because we have an architecture background, it's an area we have a maybe greater than most understanding in terms of agencies. And we have actually quite a lot of experience with tech startups, which is why we've looked at that space. They're usually looking for a nimble agency that can put something together quickly, work on their feet, and develop the strategy. I think a lot of the time these younger companies have, in terms of creative, the very hastily developed strategy that needs more work put in. So we're a good fit there, because we have that strategy session that we will go through the client with and build that out. So those are the two. But in terms of our previous clients, we have worked with clients from all over, because we've, through referrals, word of mouth referral has come into, and that just gives you all sorts.
So I've found that tech startups tend to be very product focused and functionality focused, not always very strategically brand focused or customer focused. Have you found that to be the case? And if so, how do you bring them back to the foundations of strategy?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I absolutely agree with you. They're definitely very product focused. I think I always talk about the features versus benefits. Almost all the startups that I work with are very, very heavily on the features, because that's what the engineering team gives them, or that's what they're talking about. Like, how can we develop more features, and what's the feature list? But if you don't explain the benefits of the features, then you're not really talking to the audience. So that's kind of where I start with a lot of, if I'm reviewing an existing site, or if they have some copy or some ideas for marketing, we'll talk about how do we communicate the benefits. And I also love the 7 words, like proposition. So I'll always tell a client, the heroes section needs to have like sum up what you are giving your client in 7 words. And because it almost always works, and even if we don't end up using just the 7 words, to force them to only use 7 words helps to build, the story that the rest of the site should tell.
So what's it like working with your spouse in an agency?
I don't know. Shall I let you answer that one?
It's I think like I said earlier, it's a good balance of being able to be brutally honest with the design feedback when we're bouncing ideas off of each other. And a lot of people we speak to are kind of like shocked. They're just like they can't imagine working next to their spouse 24/7, especially when with lockdown and like sort of working from home becoming a thing, and we just ended up being on each other's feet 24/7. But I think we still managed to make it work, and we're still doing projects.
You're still married. You're still sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
So how do you find and I know I'm moving into a foray of like personal authenticity, but how do you find time away from each other? Like how do you enforce or find that personal time?
Yeah, I think so. We have a couple of things we don't. So Eilidh's like really into fitness, and so she goes to the gym regularly. I don't. so Eilidh.
I'm really into sloth.
We're just like actually the two extremes in the fitness sense. So it's when in the height of lockdown, there was like realizing like, has it been 2 days since I've gone outside? But yeah, so Eilidh is always out for walks with their dog, and just and kind of more into fitness. I'm really into cars and things, and I used to do more with cars, like it's a bigger hobby. But we have different things that we do. I think that gives us the balance. But I actually think one of the things I think when people mention that if you're married to someone and you think you couldn't like spend a week together with them all the time and you need the time away from them, maybe like that's just a different type of relationship. I'm not here to judge, but like I think we enjoy our company. I think once you get to the point we're at, you can comfortably sit with someone and not have to speak to them all the time and just get on with what you're doing, and it's so yeah, I think it's working well.
Yeah, I think having the balance as well of having like a dedicated workspace and having like setting work boundaries of having work time and leisure time is really useful as well.
Have you been able to do, I have struggles with that, like especially, and I have an office away from my home because I needed to create that psychological distance between work and home life. And now with COVID, lots of people are seriously struggling with that difference and that break between work head and home head. How have you guys managed that?
Yeah, it is really difficult, and especially when COVID happened. And so we already were sort of working from home before. We've got a room that's kind of an office that we set up to be the studio. So we were already working from home anyway before COVID happened. So we kind of had that boundary. We had the workspace and we had leisure spaces as well. But not being able to sort of go out and do leisure activities because of lockdowns and stuff made it really hard. And also we've got the UK time zone. And the US time zone. So the workday here finishes at 5 and that's 9 a.m. in LA. And then you've got sort of the LA time. So it's been quite difficult to sort of prioritize actually having leisure time. But it's also something that's really important. So we try to at least block out some evenings and weekends that we just schedule it and we don't work at all.
So how do you manage that time difference between you and LA, because you are almost exactly opposite each other? Like I have a team in the Philippines and we're exactly opposite each other, and it's tough. So a lot of times because a lot of teams in the Philippines work on a night shift essentially, so they can work with their clients directly. How do you guys manage that with your team in California? Where do you interact, and what times do you interact?
Yeah, so right at the end of our day, we meet with Johnny for like our kind of morning catch up. So, but for us, it's the very end of the day. So we're just there kind of like exhausted, and he's all like fresh faced and ready to go. So that's when we have the kind of crossover. And honestly, if we are being candid, like we have been working like most of the evenings just now. And it's in my head, I kind of think we're in the lockdown and we couldn't really do anything else. It's easy to just justify it and say, well, what else would I be doing anyway? Like no one can go out and, I can't go for drinks at a bar with friends, or I can't, because so I might as well just sit in here and just get some more work done. And that's probably been quite a bad, because I'm still doing it now, even though things have opened back up. So I think it's going to be a healthier split when we're in Los Angeles, because we won't be able to work on the UK time, because it'll be in the middle of the night. So hopefully that helps, but it's definitely been really tough. I think we are kind of working 2 shifts back to back. We have our dinner meal quite early at the end of the UK workday, and then we're working, and we've had meetings. Sometimes in a week we'll have more meetings in an evening than we'd have during the day, because we've got more clients that are US based, and we just kind of work around their time zone.
So let's take a pivot a little bit and talk about how you've promoted or built your own brand. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you started a YouTube channel and you've been populating a lot of content there. Let's go before that. When you were deciding to market your business through social, how did you go about choosing the social platforms that you were going to dive deep into, and what was the criteria around your decision making there?
Yeah, I think so. This is something that we've kind of always struggled with, and I think it still is quite a lot of back and forth and sort of trying to work out what platform we should post more on. So I think when we started out, we kind of just went with the standard ones: Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and then we kind of went through a more like a discovery process of trying to work out where our clients are and where's the best fit for us. So obviously LinkedIn. Each platform has like its own sort of use. For like LinkedIn, you might post sort of more text posts, and obviously Instagram is just sort of images where we'd maybe just share like portfolio examples. But I think the whole way through we've not posted as much as we'd like to, and it's always something that we're trying to do more of.
And so YouTube came into the mix too, right? So you started with LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You dabbled in those. Did you drop any? Have you tried to be everywhere all the time, or how's that working?
Yeah, I think we've kind of consciously dropped out of Facebook. We're still not really keeping up with Instagram as much as we should, but it was kind of suggested to us by a peer that Instagram is very focused on, agencies post on Instagram. It's always the glossy finished piece. It's always the, like the portfolio work, and it's great for that, for posting that kind of content. But what we should really be doing is getting our face out there so that people can kind of meet us and get to know like our personality. And I guess that kind of plays into the personal brand thing, although we're a duo. So that was what motivated the move to create YouTube content. We wanted people to meet us, and we felt like we kind of had some insight we could share, just even if it's less about us, being like, here's all our knowledge, because, we're still learning, but just to take people on that learning journey as well with us, and just have a sort of story that we're telling along the way is what we were looking to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think the whole starting a business is really scary, and I feel like it might be a little bit more accepted in the US. I think a lot of the time in the UK, people get their 9-to-5 job, and that's kind of what people do. And starting a business is a lot of a more sort of different thing to do here. And it was a really scary process, and we kind of went through that huge learning curve when we started Dunclyde, and I kind of felt like we wanted to share some of the experience that we went through with people who might be trying to do the same thing.
And so you were sharing about for other creative professionals and people who were starting their own businesses, but then by the same token, you were trying to put yourselves out there, what you know, how much you know, and let people, potentially clients, get to know you. So when it came to developing your content on YouTube, how did you split between those two audiences to a certain extent, between designers and creatives that you wanted to help in their journey and potential clients that you wanted to impress with how much you knew?
Yeah, I mean, I think the truthful answer is that at first we didn't really consciously split. We thought about a few things that we just wanted to talk about, and we thought if we just talk about these things, we thought we tried to do the in-depth dive where we're like, well, will marketers watch this? Marketers at firms, will they be, what kind of content do they want to see? Do they want to see the latest design trends information, or are we only going to be talking to other designers who'll be the other audience about, where we're sharing our process and things. And we just decided that we're just going to basically just talk about what we would want to talk about. And naturally that will reach the kind of people who are also interested in what we have to say. So as you mentioned at the start, we have done videos on quite a few different topics, different things, like one from where we're like comparing the mice we use, which will be exclusively really based at designers, and then other ones where it's like Webflow tutorials, where I'm kind of showing some tricks I've learned in Webflow along the way. From that to the process of starting the business and how things have gone. So it's definitely been quite all over the place, but we just thought we'd create almost like the build it and they will come sort of mentality. We just wanted to talk about what we wanted to talk about, and with kind of the idea that the audience would relate to that if they're the right kind of person.
And so what have you learned in that process? What did you learn in your putting out? How many videos do you have out now?
Oh, how many do we have?
50?
I'm
I'm
not sure exactly.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll need to double check. But yeah, we I think so. What we're struggling with is, and I'm sure that everyone who's done YouTube for any kind of time would have the same thing, is that you see the videos that perform well, and you think, oh, I should do another one on a similar topic, but it's not really, I did that video and I'm done with that topic. And so you have this like, am I just creating noise by making another one, or will I just stick to what I want to do, which is this next video that might get 2 views? So we definitely noticed that things like the Webflow content was getting a lot of views. Eilidh did some like on the best project management tools, and it got loads and loads of views as well. So I think it's the tough thing is sticking to your guns and doing the content that you want to, and just like finding your voice and telling your story, and rather than being swayed too much by the numbers. It's difficult.
Yeah,
though.
I feel like doing the informational ones on like platforms gets a lot of traction. Lots of people are on YouTube to find that information, but so it would be easy to keep doing that because it's getting more views. But I feel like there's always going to be people who can maybe share a bit more value because they're more expert in that sort of that one platform. Whereas we're kind of taking it from a more sort of running an agency point of view, where you're using this as a tool, and we kind of just want to share our story and maybe dip a little bit into the tools that we use, but not sort of do a really deep dive on how to use all the features of that tool.
So at the beginning, before we hit record, I was sharing with you how I feel a struggle of YouTube content development, specifically at the beginning. And a lot of people want to start, an Instagram channel, and they start posting a whole bunch of stuff, or they start a YouTube channel and or a podcast, and out of the gate, they'll have a lot of energy, a lot of content. But at the beginning, you start to realize that, wow, my audience isn't that big, or I'm not getting that many views or that many listens or downloads. And it's disheartening. And you have to kind of plow through that speaking to an empty room kind of phase where you're building up a library of content and slowly gaining inertia and experience on how to do it. How have you guys continued to plow through that wall in the beginning as your YouTube channel is in its infancy, so to speak?
Yeah, it is really tough, and I feel like we're still a bit in that stage. The channel's still like really small, and we've actually been quite busy with projects that we've kind of let posting new content sort of fall a little bit, which is something that we want to keep up. But actually that period that we slowed down a little bit on the content, we were still getting seeing people subscribe and comment on our stuff, which is actually really encouraging because we're not actively posting, or we haven't for a couple of weeks, and people are still watching our stuff and subscribing, and which is really encouraging, even if it's small numbers. It's Yeah.
I think what kept us going through it, though, was the schedule. So we just set a really strict schedule, and because I think it's very easy to get busy with client work and then say, I don't have time to make a video this week or whatever. So we set a really strict thing on Thursdays at lunchtime. We would stop. It didn't matter what we were doing. We would stop. We'd kind of put up the lights and everything, and we would do a video, and we'd take turns, and each week we'd do a video, or we'd even prepare multiple and record them. But by being super, super strict and just saying every Thursday, I will take that afternoon and I will, record a video, that I think that got us through some of the days when we were thinking like, is this, are we even doing the right thing here? Is there, is the time better spent? And it's actually, once you do it like so many times, you get into the rhythm of it. It's not that difficult because we have a lot of ideas for content. We're just, it's just the time to kind of write out what you want to say. You put the points together and then speak to the camera. So eventually, once you get over it, as long as you have the timetable.
Yeah, I definitely think having the schedule set in stone helped. It sort of took away the thought of like no one's going to see this, because we were just doing it anyway, whether someone was going to watch it or not. So just having that sort of routine where we stuck to it every Thursday afternoon, we're going to create a video to post out. It almost took that whole question out of it. There were some days where you're sitting down, you're not really in the mood, and you just feel like you feel a bit like you're faking it, and you're like, no one's going to watch this anyway. But if I always felt like even if you feel like that, if you force yourself to do it, you don't have to post it in the end. But usually as you're going through the process, you realize actually,
like, what the hell?
Yeah, I really like the idea that the goal isn't to have a video and get 20,000 views. The goal is just to post a video. And so if you just make it that super simple goal of record something, post something, gets you through.
Yeah, I took the same approach when I did my YouTube channel. I said to myself, if I'm going to start a channel, I'm going to post a video a week for a year. And I'm going to treat it like a job. And if I don't post on Monday, I lose my job. And sometimes the videos were crap. Sometimes the videos were great. After about 3 months, I figured out I better start batching and doing a month at a time, so you learn those lessons along the way. And then after a year, I was like, okay, I'm in the I started to feel guilty if I didn't post on Monday. It was like I'd instilled myself with this habit that I had gotten comfortable with. And so I just kept going, And so I think your approach to that is very, very smart. And that's probably why you've been able to put out such great content in such a short period of time. The one thing I have to say, though, is that you guys have 2 people. So you can also say, Eilidh, you do this week, so you're like, a number of videos you guys both do together, which I love, because it's kind of like, it's like back and forth kind of talk show type of thing. But then also you do individual ones. How do you decide whether it's a couples one or a individual one?
I think it depends on the content. So we have a list of like ideas. We have like Daniel's list, Eilidh's list, and then we have like a joint list. So I think at the start we try to do alternating weeks. So like I do a week, Daniel will do a week, and then maybe we do like a co-op sort of week. But it kind of just depends. So I think we do sort of alternating weeks, me and Daniel. And then if we've got a good idea for something we think will be fun to do together, we'll do that.
Basically, if it's something we can argue about, then we'll put it on the joint list. If we agree about it, then there's not really much point in us both being on the video, so it just becomes one person video. But yeah.
How do you develop and keep that ideas list for content? Because you use them up, so you always have to be adding some. So what's that process look like for you?
Yeah, it's just a sort of a Monday board, and we just add to it. If we ever have an idea if we're sitting at our desk, I'll just like add it in. And then we've kind of got that list, and it kind of always grows. Some ideas you write down and it seems really good at the time, and then you go back to it and you're like, I don't even know why I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
But there's always something in there you can pick out, I think.
Yeah, I think I see. I watch quite a bit of YouTube, like creators, and I think I see a video there, and it's a totally different thing, but what they're talking about could be applied to design, or could be, it's something I've experienced. And I think, people maybe underestimate the value of their everyday experience sometimes. It's kind of like you see how many things they've made reality TV shows about. Sometimes it blows my mind that they make entertaining content out of some of these things. But so in the same way, I've now become a little bit more conscious through making the list and looking back at it. Now, when something happens in day to day, like if I have an interaction with a client or something, I'm more tuned into picking up and being like, oh, that's something that would be good to make a video about. Or and the same thing happens now with Webflow, which is I'll be doing something, I'll be really stuck, and then I'll just like have an idea on how to fix it. I'll fix it, and then I'll put it in the list for an idea to make a video about how I fixed it.
So, people from the outside look at you guys and say, man, they really sussed it out. They have a successful agency. They're international. They're doing really well. And so, but everybody has struggles. Like, I know you guys hit walls, had hurdles. What were some of the difficulties that you had to overcome in building your agency?
I think the first struggle that I just remember, I'm never going to forget the thought of like the first thought, how do you just get more clients? And we went through a long phase of watching including lots of your original videos from way back, years ago, on how to get more clients. And it was kind of I think one of the points you mentioned was kind of find a space that you're really comfortable in and just kind of build in that space, try that, and really be the master in that market. And I just didn't know where that was for us. Like, where is that market? And so that struggle, I really will understand that struggle from agencies of where do you find the good clients? How do you build those clients? And I only really have like kind of the answer for us. We tried lots of different things. So we tried Google Ads. We even did a landing page. That didn't really do anything. And again, we didn't maybe invest enough into it, but we didn't really do anything for us. We tried we've done more like LinkedIn post things, but really we've become a Webflow expert, so we're accredited as Webflow now, and that really is the biggest source of our kind of leads. So the people contact us through Webflow experts, and we're on Clutch, listed as an agency on Clutch, and we've got good reviews on there. So, but it is tough, and I feel like we're not at that point yet where I can say we have enough streams that we'll always have a great pool of clients, because there's always more Webflow experts being added to the list, which is diluting like the leads. So don't get accredited as a Webflow expert.
It's a bad idea. Don't go there.
Yeah, definitely not. But that's been tough, and I think I'm still not comfortable that we have enough sources to, of leads, and that's the struggle really.
Yeah, I think the whole where to post and sort of where to put content out and where to get clients from is always like an evolving process, and you kind of have to find the right fit for you, and it involves a lot of experimentation and always kind of like adapting and sort of listening to what's working and what's not working, and like being flexible to change if circumstances change.
Okay, so Daniel, Eilidh, it's been awesome talking to you on the show today. I didn't hip you to this, but I'm doing a new segment at the end of my show, and it's called the Rapid Fire 10, and it's 10 questions with one-word answers. So because there's two of you, I was thinking, how am I going to handle this? Either I'm going to do it twice with each of you, but I figure what we'll do is I'll ask you the question, and then Daniel, then Eilidh, you have to answer right after each other. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Question number 1. What's your spirit animal?
Oh, a dog? I don't know. Jeez, I don't know.
I'm going to say a rabbit.
Okay. Morning person or night person?
Night person.
Morning.
Beach or mountains?
Oh.
Mountains.
Beach.
Dog person or cat person?
Cat person.
We've got a dog and a cat, so Daniel said cat, so I'm going to say dog.
Okay. What's your secret talent that most people don't know that you can do?
Most people don't know. I can play violin.
I'm going to say cleaning, because I really love to clean.
What's your favorite song of all time?
That's a difficult one. Of all time. It's What's My Age Again by Blink-182.
What's the Phil Collins one with the drums?
In the Air Tonight.
In the Air Tonight.
Okay.
It's good if you know the name of your own favorite song.
I'm really bad with names.
Favorite place in the world?
Probably like the mountains up by the Griffith Observatory.
Okay.
I'm going to say the same thing.
Okay. Wow, you agree on one thing. Okay. Sorry, I'm like totally instigating here. What's the one thing you would love to master?
JavaScript, I think. I know this sounds like really specific and not businessy, but I'd love to properly learn how to do JavaScript, because HTML, CSS I can have a grip on, but JavaScript just escaped me so far.
And dancing. It's something I really can't do, but I'd really love to be able to do.
Okay. Who's your hero?
I don't know. I wanted to say someone the fictional like Tony Stark, but he's got some issues. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Eilidh?
I'm going to say Taylor Swift.
Okay. All right, coming back to you, Daniel. You can say Tony Stark because she's...
I'm going to say Tony Stark, yeah.
All right. And finally, what's the one thing you would tell your 20-year-old self?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a really, really good question. I would probably say, don't panic and just keep at it. Is what I think, because I know that when I was 20, I definitely panicked a lot about what I was going to do, and I was very stressed that nothing was going to work out. And yeah.
Yeah, I would say
That's kind of the Scottish equivalent of, keep calm and carry on, right?
Yeah, good point, yeah.
Sure.
I would say don't care what other people think and just sort of do you.
Do you? Okay, and this is a big one, which I always ask everybody, is that do you have a manifesto or some sort of personal mantra that you try to live your lives by?
Yeah, so I think something I really love is a quote from Charles Swindon, which is the difference between something good and something great is attention to detail. And I think I really like, I'm quite detail orientated, and I pay attention to to the small stuff. And I think that's what makes, that's one of the areas we stand out as an agency. So that's maybe something.
Yeah, definitely attention to detail. I think mine would be question everything. So I think that comes into like starting the business. Like if we didn't question the 9-to-5 norm, we wouldn't have started the business. And even sort of with dealing with clients, like if you don't ask questions and you just sort of order take, you're going to just kind of produce mediocre results. So definitely question everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for talking to us. If people want to get in touch with Dun Clyde, what's the best way to do that?
So you can visit our website at dunclyde.com, or you can email us at hello@dunclyde.com. Dunclyde is DUNCLYDE.com.
And we're on YouTube. It's Design Break.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone check that out. Design Break on YouTube. Awesome channel. So Daniel Clydesdale and Eilidh Dunsire, thank you so much for talking to us today on the Brand Design Masters podcast. We hope you'll come back and see us again soon.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having us. Thank you. It was great.